first that now I kind of like to do. For example, when I first went to the gym, I hated working on my shoulders. I remember one of the first times that I did that machine where you push up, and I remember my arms shaking, and it was only on like 10 pounds or something. You know, I never thought that I'd be, you know, grabbing a bar and you know, a big heavy bar and thrusting it above my head, you know, and doing big sets of that. I never thought that would ever be something that would happen, because I hated it when I first started doing it. But you start seeing progress, and there's really no going back. So my shoulders, my arms, and my chest, that's the stuff I fell in love with, because those were all the hot zones of the quote-unquote boy muscles, not meaning to be gendering muscles. But once again, I was a kid, I was a tomboy, I kind of wanted to be a boy, and you know, this big part of me was like, I want to be a strong man. And so I went to the gym, and I got to kind of work towards a goal of doing what I wanted as a kid in my adulthood. I was spending my own money, my own time to work towards that goal. I didn't have my mom checking in on me to see if I was, you know, it's like, you know, when your mom sends you out for piano class and is like, hey, are you actually practicing? Because I paid for this. Well, it was on me this time. I'm mom. I'm my own mom. And I'm looking after myself. And if anybody's going to hold me accountable for this, it's going to be me. And so I did. I just kept going, and I discovered that my arms and my shoulders and my chest were things I really enjoyed working on. And so for the next 6, 7, 8 months, I was really increasing that, and as the spring came, I discovered my true love of walking. I just loved a good trail, and I loved just walking down the road. I didn't need a destination. One of my professors asked us in class today, does anybody like walking anywhere? Do you need a destination? I did not need a destination. I would walk anywhere. And, you know, I always need music or whatever, but, I mean, a good, you know, thing to pair this up with is when I eventually did get another job, I worked with Eastern Health, and I was at the I wasn't in the Health Science Center, I was in a building very close to it, but I would walk on a part of the Long Pond Trail right by it every day on my lunch break. I would go out of my way to eat lunch during a slow part of my actual workday, so that when I took my break, I could just take my break and I would go for a walk. And I wouldn't be, you know, like on my phone or like, you know, just eating and scrolling or watching videos. No, I wanted to be outside and getting fresh air. And there were a few little areas that I would walk around. So walking really became medicine to me. And most of the time that I was at that job, it was just a student summer job. Most of the time that I was at that job, my dad was actually in palliative care. And so my routine every day was like go to work, you know, walk on my big break, and on my little break, just go outside and get a bit of fresh air. And the moment I get off work, go see my dad. And then do whatever, you know, work on making sure I'm eating enough, because when you're stressed, that's the other way it can go. And so I had to make sure that I was really eating a lot of good food. And so, you know, I'm still going to the gym. I'm doing that after I go visit my dad. I'm making sure that I'm getting all of these activities in. And what I found is that I wasn't falling apart. I wasn't losing control of everything. And once again, people would say, why are you going to the gym? Why do you have to go for a walk? Why can't you do this right now? Why can't you do that right now? Why would you want to go there when you can come here? And my answer would always be because I can control that about my life. Why would I just go and sit on someone's porch? You know, I can do that later. If I get that thing done that I want to do that's going to make me feel good about myself, I can feel my muscles getting stronger. I can feel my body being able to handle more activity without me doubling over and panting out of breath. Just the fact that, you know, I was able to do more every time, I felt for the first time in my life that I was in control of something. And so eventually the day came, you know, a little over a year ago now, when I was at work and I got a call that I had to come, and, you know, it was going to happen, and I was there, and it did. And yeah, it was devastating. And, you know, my life changed forever in that moment. But, you know, in the days before, I I was really lucky to have a conversation with my dad, who was so worried my whole life about my mental health, because I had done some really crazy things in my life. I had just been a very up and down person, and I discovered actually that year why. I found out that I was bipolar, and that really I had a lot going on that I didn't know about for a long time. But he didn't even know, because I kept my diagnosis a secret from him for a while, because I didn't want to put more on him. But I told him in the end that, I was dealing with this, but he was able to see how I had been dealing with it, that, since that diagnosis, I had really, it just happened to coincide with me making all of these really positive changes. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't worried about me, and he felt good in the fact that, okay, I don't have to worry about you anymore. Finally, 24 years old, almost 25 years old, and I can stop worrying in some capacity. You can look after yourself in some capacity. And indeed I could. And so, he didn't want to go. He wanted to hold on. But when that time came, I was really able, I had my emotional moment, but I was able to objectively look at it after I had had a little bit of time, and went, well, I've been waiting for this for a while, and it's best for everybody, but now it's time for me to stay true to my word. And I told him that that these positive changes, I wasn't only just gonna stay at the level I was right now, I was gonna improve, and that I was gonna have a career, and I was gonna have a family one day in some capacity, maybe not a nuclear family, but a family nonetheless, that I was going to do something meaningful, productive with my life. And I didn't even know. At that time, I had no idea what I was talking about. I was like, I guess I'm just going to go to Ontario and get a programming job, finish a bachelor's degree in computer science. None of these things were in the cards for me, but I knew that there was some hope there. And I wasn't going to tell him that there wasn't, because I just didn't know. But I knew that if I kept going to the gym, if I kept on going to the gym and lifting heavy things and walking, that something would happen. Well, I had a very emotional birthday that year. My birthday is October 6th, and so it's actually coming up pretty soon again, but it was less than 2 months after he died that I had my 25th birthday. I wasn't even home. I was in Nova Scotia. I was visiting friends at the time, but also family. And I had some lonely moments when I was alone, to reflect on the fact that this is the first birthday that, I wasn't home with my mom, and I definitely wasn't with my dad, so I had a lot going on in my mind, and my way of coping with what's going on in my mind was usually to go to the gym, but I had no access to a car. I had no way to get to a gym. And so people are always saying that activity can be free, and once again, if you have issues that are between you and the leisure you want, that's definitely a problem. But I made leisure for myself. I knew that I liked walking, and so I went out and I did my walking. But one day, it really did occur to me that I could do something new. If I'm at the gym and I'm doing that 20 pounds for a month, and one day I say, why the hell not, and I pick up 30. I had that moment with walking where I decided that I was going to run. At this point in my life, I was about 165 pounds, and I figured, maybe for the first time in my life I can do this without worrying about my knees, about my bones just not being able to handle me. Because once again, I'm not a tall person. I'm a short person who carried all their weight in the center. And so I had very valid concerns. And so when the time came and I was able to make that choice to run, I did. And the first run was 6 minutes. It was on an old highway in Nova Scotia. And I said, I'm going to run from here to the stop sign. Let's see how it goes. And it was killer. It hurt. My legs hurt. My lungs hurt. My everything hurt. I was so glad I didn't smoke cigarettes anymore, or else I probably would have keeled over and died, I felt like. But I didn't, and I feel like everything that I do now in my life, it's if I do some sort of exercise that really hurts and sucks, my first thought is, oh my god, that's terrible, that sucks so much. Anyways, when can I do it again? That seems to be how I deal with all this stuff now. So when I had that really crappy run, The next day I didn't, but the day after that I was like, you know what? I have nothing else to do. I'm gonna go run. I'm gonna look up a few articles online about how to get into running. And I did a bit more traveling after that. And I had moments in that when I was so lonely. And I was in a place that wasn't my home, and I didn't know what to do, so I ran. And I came home. And I was able to bring one souvenir home with me, and that was my love of running, the joy of motion that I had discovered in Nova Scotia and in the northeastern United States. I brought that gift with me home. And so one day, I was running on what's now my favorite trail. It's very close to my house. It's the Virginia Rivers Concourse. I was running on that trail, and I had thought a couple times that, I felt very connected to my father when I would run, because my father was a lifelong runner. It was his medicine. He worked in school administration for the majority of my life. He was in the education system for 35 years, I think. And it was very stressful for him. He had a stressful life. He was a principal for pretty much all my life. And so, he would go out for walks late in the night. He would run. He would do all of these things. And it really seemed to be something that kept him mellow. And I would think about this, about a month into beginning running. And one day it hit me that I was going to come back to school. I was going to think about studying PE because he was a teacher, and I felt that emotional connection to it. And you know what? It was not the degree program that I think I'm going to do in my life. It's not where I'm going, but it led me to the right department. And so it was at this point that I really went all in on how beautiful motion is. And even with my music, as I, began to produce less of it, I made a few songs for a project that I haven't finished yet, and that project is just called The Joy of Motion. So at this point, you're really seeing in my life the things that are a priority to me. And it's not junk food, it's not sitting and watching TV, it's not all of these things that define my life. It's not whatever new video game is coming out next month that I'm waiting for, that I have pre-ordered. It has nothing to do with that anymore. It has to do with these little holistic things, these little free things, these little tiny joys in life that I get to experience now that I never experienced for the first 24 years of my life. Things that were right under my nose that I just ignored and pretended they weren't there because they made me uncomfortable, because they were things that I wasn't used to doing. And I thought that because I hadn't done them for the first X amount of years of my life that I could never do them. And that is a prison of my own device that I locked myself in for so long. And I could have gotten myself out of that at any point in my life when I was a kid. You can blame people for not pushing you, like I did earlier. But at the end of the day, the one person who chose not to start running, to not to start moving, to not evaluate what I was putting in my body was me. And so the person who had to change all of that was also me. And so if anybody is out there who is trying to get through to someone and make them change their habits, I got bad news for you. It's not going to work. You've just got to hold out. You got to wait until they feel it within themselves, because you know what? I had a lot of periods in my life when people told me to smarten up and eat better and move more, and I wasn't having any of it. This brings us to the end of our hour, and once again, I can't believe I just stood here and talked for an hour straight, but I have. So I'm not going to really ramble on too much over my time. There is another show that's going to be starting very soon. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Once again, I'm going to shout out my social media here really quickly. If you want to get in contact or you just want to follow me for whatever reason, you're bored, you can go on Instagram at Annii Gets Healthy. That's ANNII Gets Healthy. Also, I just created Twitter. I'm not really using it much yet, but it's Annii K Health, ANNII Health. So we're going to talk about that, and I have another friend coming on the week after, I hope. Still getting it all in the works. But here I am, rambling, 8:01, gotta go. But thank you so much for tuning in to Annii Gets Healthy. Please, for the next week, take care of yourself, and I look forward to speaking with you all again next week. Have a good night.